All right, so here we go. We've got another McFarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is Batgirl from Batman and Robin. So it's Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. This is not Barbara Gordon. This is not the character that we know from the comic books. They made up a whole new character to be Batgirl, whose name is Barbara Wilson, because they decided that she was too young to be Pat Hingle's daughter. Yep, they decided she was too young to be Pat Hingle's daughter, who was Commissioner Gordon in those movies, but somehow she was British enough to be Alfred's niece. I don't know. I don't think they thought that one through very well. But I think part of it also was like the theme of family in those movies, and like that movie in particular, and they wanted to tie her in closer with the Batman family or whatnot. So I say this is actually not an adaptation of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. I think she's got more in common actually with Betty Kane, the Bat-girl of the early Silver Age, who was a blonde girl that was the niece of one of Batman's Confederates. So I think she has more in common with that Batgirl character than the Barbara Gordon character. So we can see that it is the typical packaging that we've seen in this series so far. I still have the boxes over here for Robin and Poison Ivy. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, where I was talking about those figures, those should be up. You can watch those also. And I'm planning on doing Batman tomorrow, but which was actually the working title for Batman Beyond. Now that I think about it, was Batman Tomorrow. But I'm planning on doing that tomorrow, which is Saturday. Today is Friday. It is currently 3:35 by my time. So for anybody watching this in the future. But yeah, if I don't do Batman tomorrow, I will do Batman on Monday. So, but yeah, McFarlane actually did some unique packaging for these. It's still basically the same layout and everything, but they gave it a red panel on the side and the top. You see it's got the Batman and Robin movie logo, and it says that she is indeed Batgirl from Batman and Robin. And then on the back, we got the picture of Mr. Freeze, and we've got the layout of how to put the Build-A-Figure together and what parts are what. And we can see that this is labeled as number 1, even though I've decided to open it as the 3rd figure for various reasons. Like obviously, like I said, I wanted to start with the torso, so open Poison Ivy first. And then I felt like I should put the arms on next. So then I opened Robin, because since she comes with the freezing gun, I wanted the figure to be able to hold the freezing gun. He needs arms to do that. So I went in a completely different order from what they suggest on the box. And the only step that I'm keeping in order is the legs that come with Batman. So let's go ahead and open her up. We've talked enough about the box, I think, in the previous 2 videos. Although I talked about the box for those more than I usually talk about the box for McFarlane figures, since they did actually do something different and unique. So there she is out of the box. We can get a better look at her. There's Mr. Freeze over here. And let's go ahead and pull out the insert so we can get out the stand and the trading card. Have a look at those. And as with the other figures in this set, none of these have had the trading card and the stand on the same bubble, unfortunately, which is what I prefer. But there's the stand, and we see it's a pretty typical McFarlane figure stand for these DC figures. Matte black figure stand with a glossy black DC logo on it. So I don't guess Mr. Freeze will get his own figure stand either, since he's the Build-A-Figure. So that's unfortunate. And fortunately, I was able to get the bubble off fairly easily for the trading card. And lo and behold, it's the same exact text on this trading card as on the other trading cards. What a shock. But there's the artwork with Alicia Silverstone, and like I said, this is the same from the same poster as what they use on Robin and Poison Ivy. They just kind of blew up the pictures from the main poster. I remember now that the single poster for Poison Ivy also it was she was wearing a different costume on that. She had the one with the gold leaves on her eyebrows, her gold eyebrow leaves, and so yeah, these are, you can see Batman's chin there, I believe, up in the corner. See that little fleshy blob? That's Batman's chin. So yeah, the way that it was laid out, you can see Robin's chin here too on Batgirl's card. So I'll kind of layer those over each other so we can see how it would have fit together. See how his chin is on her card? And likewise, if I layer it over this way, her hair is on his card. So yeah. There's a little bit of Batgirl's hair on Poison Ivy's card as well. A little bit of blonde sticking out there. So it all kind of fits together. Interestingly enough. Maybe they should have done it that way, where it was laid out where you could put all the cards together. And I'm not going to read the back of that card because I already read it on Poison Ivy. So go back and watch that Poison Ivy video if you want to see me read that card, because I'm not doing it again. If they're too lazy to write up a separate bio for all these characters, I'm too lazy to read it like 4 times. I think that's fair. So first, before I deal with the figure, I'm going to go ahead and take out all the Build-A-Figure parts because there are a few of them, and I don't want to take a chance on having an Arnold Schwarzenegger head fly across my room when I'm trying to take the Batgirl figure out. So we're going to get all that stuff up first. There is the freezing gun. And there is a blast effect for the freezing gun. So we get that out. Now, oftentimes on these Mcfarlane figures, and I think it has to do with DC's being weird about the about guns coming with the characters in their contract. Like the 1966 Mr. Freeze figure doesn't even come with a freezing gun. The Penguin doesn't come with an umbrella in the 66 line. It's weird. So I think that that's why a lot of the DC characters that say, like with Ted Kord's Blue Beetle gun, or with the comic book style Mr. Freeze, which I have around here, you can see that his freezing gun has a permanently attached blast effect to it. This one is actually removable though, so that's nice. I kind of feel like even if DC was being weird about the guns, and we don't want any of our characters to come with guns, even though they use them in the comics all the time, even though the Red Hood is famous for using guns, you can't have the Red Hood figure come with guns. People might think he's some kind of violent, murderous vigilante if you did that. Like, we don't want to do that. But that might be like some kind of like contractual thing where it's like, okay, you can give the Blue Beetle his gun, but it needs to have a grappling hook coming out of it, so it's clear that it's not like a gun that shoots bullets. Mr. Freeze can have a gun, but it has to have a blast effect permanently attached to it, so that we can tell that it's a freezing gun and not like a gun that shoots bullets. But this one, the freezing effect actually is removable, which I like. I'm glad of that. So that's really cool. And we'll have a closer look at this when we do our Mr. Freeze review which I will probably do sometime next week. He will get his own review, even though he's a Build-A-Figure, because I think he's going to be worth talking about. But let's go ahead and put the Build-A-Figure parts onto him, since we've got him out of the box. We got to put the head on there too. Why don't I go and pull that out? And that doesn't seem to be taped in or anything, so I can just kind of pop it out of here, I think. He is embedded nice and deep in that package. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do his separate review. But you can see that's a good likeness of Arnold Schwarzenegger and pretty accurate to how they did his makeup in the film. Let's go ahead and pop his head on. Hopefully it should pop right on. Make sure I got it on all the way. I'm going to give it some extra pressure there. So, nope, didn't go on all the way. You're going to make me use the hairdryer, aren't you? I don't want to use the hairdryer, not on the video, but I will. Nope, I got it on. Okay. So there's that. Now he's starting to come together. So looking at the shoulder pieces, they are indeed two separate shoulder pieces. I don't remember which one is supposed to go on which side. So I'm going to say that the one that looks the more ornate from the front is supposed to go on the front. The side that looks more ornate should point towards the front, I would think. And they do seem to be like the same peg sizes, so I think you could put it on either way. But I'm going to say that the front should be the one that looks the more ornate. And judging by the angle of the pegs, I think I was right. Although I will have to check and see how his armor looks in the movie. I don't remember offhand, but I mean, that looks right to me. Right? Give it a little bit of... Sean Franklin! I have not seen you in a while. How have you been doing? Good to see you. You think Rambo... What about the Rambo prequel? Are they doing a movie? Or are we talking about the comic book that Chuck Dixon's writing? Yeah, we'll go ahead and... He's got a foregrip on the freezing gun, so we can have him holding the freezing gun in a two-hand grip. This is going to be a really cool figure when I get it put together, I think. I'm really excited about this Mr. Freeze. But right now, he's not complete. He still needs his legs. We're going to set him aside. All right. So, the main part of the package is Batgirl herself. So let's go ahead and get her out of the package. Now, I think it's well known. Where's my X-Acto knife? There it is. Okay. Right in front of me. It would not be an Alan Belk unboxing video if Alan Belk did not have to hunt around for his X-Acto knife. Maybe one day when I'm a big success, I can hire somebody to be my X-Acto knife wrangler, and people will complain that I sold out. Have you seen The Blob 1988? I have seen The Blob 1988. I was a big fan of the original Blob when I was a kid. That was one that I remember seeing on TV. And when they were doing the remake of The Blob, I was pretty excited about it. I thought the special effects looked really cool. So that was before... I mean, like, Hollywood's always been remake crazy. But that was before, like, they went really remake crazy, and it seemed like every movie was a remake nowadays. For a while there, it just seemed like they were remaking everything. But The Blob was one where I kind of felt like maybe not necessarily an improvement on the original Blob, but it was at least, like, you know, good enough that it was worth making. I think it was like it was good enough to stand with the original Blob. It was almost kind of like it could have been like a sequel to the original Blob, if that makes any sense. All right, so let's try to get her out of the package without messing up the cake too much. because it is one of those things where like they somehow fit the cape into this little hole that doesn't seem to be as wide as the cape actually is. So I don't know how they did that. So here she is out of the package. And I think it's an excellent likeness of Alicia Silverstone. It does look very much like the actress, so that's good. She does seem to be missing the little beauty mark that she had on her chin. I notice these sort of things. So if you're a guy my age, you remember Alicia Silverstone from the mid to late 90s. She was in all those Aerosmith music videos and you know, very famous for those. And then she wound up parlaying her music video fame into movie fame, and she was in that movie with Carrie Ellis, The Crush, and she was in Clueless, which made her a huge star for a while. And then she was in Batman and Robin, and she wasn't quite as huge a star after that, unfortunately. She deserved better. So this movie kind of messed up her career. If anybody's career was hurt by Batman and Robin, it was Alicia Silverstone. Like, I think Uma Thurman's career was hurt for a little bit, but she did Kill Bill like a couple of years later, and she was fine. Arnold, of course, was fine. George Clooney managed to carve himself out a really good career afterwards. Chris O'Donnell, his career wasn't so great after Batman and Robin for a while, but he's got like a new show. Well, I mean, he's had a show for a few years. Not even be on the air anymore now that I think about it. One of those NCIS shows that my dad likes to watch. I like the way they did her cape. There's a lot of cool draping effects going on there, and you can see where like the seams are, and it gives it kind of like this ridged effect. It does look very much like I think it resembles a lot the way that the cape was drawn. Batman's cape would have been drawn in like the early Batman comics. You know, the few issues that Bob Kane actually drew himself before hiring people like Sheldon Moldoff and Jerry Robinson to draw the comics for him. And Dick Sprang. But like they all had this way of drawing Batman's cape where it had this sort of ridged look to it. And they managed to capture that in the capes in this movie, I think. Bob Ringwood would have been the guy who did the costume designs for the first 4 Batman movies, and he did an excellent job. I loved the Batman costumes for the most part, including the Robin costumes and the Batgirl costumes. I thought they were really good, with the exception of I thought the ice costumes at the end of this film were rather gaudy with the various silver pieces on here. So Batman's costume, as far as the ice costume at the end, was basically they took the sonar suit from the end of Batman Forever and just slapped a bunch of silver pieces on it, and big silver cod piece. And same with Robin, they just kind of took the Nightwing Robin costume he'd been wearing through most of the movie and slapped some more silver pieces on it and big silver cod piece. They made the emblem silver instead of red. And Batgirl, they basically just had this same exact costume, only they made the emblem and the belt and the mask and a few other parts silver instead of black. So, but she's Alicia Silverstone, so it makes sense they put her in some silver accents on her outfit. So she's pretty particular that it's Alicia Silverstone. And you might hear me occasionally accidentally say Alicia, but it's Alicia. That's how it's supposed to be pronounced. So let's have a look at her articulation. So her head can turn side to side and should go all the way around, but she does have this hair that kind of hinders it somewhat. But you can see I was able to turn her head all the way around. She can look down about that far, look up, Not at all, really. She just goes back to default setting. But again, it's the hair. The hair kind of gets in the way of that. It does not seem to be quite as soft and flexible as the hair on the Poison Ivy figure. But also, I think her hair is painted, and I believe Poison Ivy's hair is not painted. I think that's just like the color of the plastic. I think I could be mistaken about that. So let's see. Arm rotates all the way around this way, and the arms move up about that far. So she does have a bicep swivel, so her bicep rotates all the way around like that. She's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you got on the elbows. So not quite as articulated as the Robin ones were, where I was able to get them like completely just folded in on each other. It's weird that her arms seem to have less articulation than the Robin arms in that regard. Since they are skinnier arms, you would think that would give them more room to fold in on each other. But no, that's about the best we get. But that's still really good. I'm not saying that it's not good. It's just for whatever reason, it just does not have the range of motion of Robin. So I don't get. So whatever. She's got the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation, so we can move her torso around in all kinds of ways. Now, unfortunately, since she does have this corset piece in the middle, it does kind of interrupt the sculpt of it. So if you're particular about having it lined up exactly, you're not going to want to pose the torso too much. So, but what are you going to do? They could have either done that or just eliminated the articulation entirely. And who wants them to do that? Nobody. Okay. It is some good sculpting. It does seem like it is, to me, it seems like it's very accurate to her design in the film. It does seem like that they eliminated the nipples, which the Batgirl costume in the movie, like Batman and Robin, did have nipples, but they were not as prominent as they were on Batman and Robin. They did make them a little more subtle. It was less like she had nipples sculpted onto her suit and more like, it was cold in Gotham City. Mr. Freeze was the villain. What do you want? So, but I don't really blame Mcfarlane for toning those down because, like I said, they were kind of subtle. I can get how for one thing, they might not even have noticed they were there to begin with. And for another thing, you can put nipples on a dude action figure, but when you put them on a girl action figure, you see how that might be a little controversial. So, yeah, they didn't do that. Anyway, going back to the articulation on the figure, she's got the Mcfarlane, the typical wrist articulation, so she can move her wrist down about that far, and up about that far, and any number of ways because it's on a ball joint, and we can move it around however we want. I've mentioned before how much I like the wrist articulation on Mcfarlane figures, and this is no exception. She seems to have a really good range of motion on her wrists, so that's cool. Moving on to her legs. Legs move up about that far. She's got double jointed knees, and they bend in about that far. Thankfully, her joints are nowhere near as stiff as Robin's. They are nice and firm, but I'm not having to struggle with them like I was with Robin's knees, where he had those old arthritic knees that just did not want to bend at all. That's about the range of motion you get on the knees. Again, not the best range of motion I've ever seen on a Mcfarlane figure, but not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So let's go ahead and bend it back down. And then she, again, has the ball-jointed Mcfarlane type ankles on this one, where it's like the newer type of ball-jointed articulation where they manage to hide. It's not like a ball that's stuck down there. It's got wrinkles and stuff sculpted into it, so it blends in. And, of course, her ankle rotates all the way around like that. And she can point her toe down about that far and point her heel up about that far. And you can see she's got these nice chunky high heels. So like they gave her high heels, but still stuff that she can like run around and do flips on. And then of course she's got the toe articulation because they want to show off. So yeah, nice looking figure. Looks like the character in the movie. No complaints about that. Now, as far as the costume design in the movie goes, she did have a cowl that she wore for a very brief period when she was riding her motorcycle, but she rips it off almost immediately after and then just has this domino mask, which again, that's more like Betty Kane than Barbara Gordon, is just having a domino mask and not a proper bat cowl with ears on it. And just for fun, I do have a Mcfarlane Batgirl figure based on the comic book. This is not based on the comic book at that time because Batgirl was not in the comic book at that time. At that time, Barbara Gordon was Oracle, and nobody else had picked up the Batgirl mantle yet. Now, a short time later, in the No Man's Land storyline, we would have the Huntress would don a Batgirl costume with a full head mask that covered her entire face, and that would later be passed to the Cassandra Cain character that would be introduced in that storyline, and she would become the next Batgirl. But she wasn't a character yet. At this time, they only had, flashbacks to Barbara Gordon. And in fact, when they did comics to tie in to spotlight the characters featured in the movie, and one of them was Batgirl, that was supposed to be a flashback. And very good story with very excellent artwork. I definitely recommend. All those tie-in comics were really good for Batman and Robin. Even if the movie wasn't that great, a lot of the comics that came out of it were really good. That Batgirl comic was excellent. I definitely recommend reading it. Probably the best one of those though was Mr. Freeze, which was written by Paul Dini himself and kind of adapted his Mr. Freeze origin from Batman the animated series into the DC Comics universe, but a little different. I won't say too much more about it. But even though she wasn't really in the comic books at that time, this would have been pretty similar to what we imagine Batgirl as looking like in the comics, from the Silver and Bronze Age. Obviously, they gave her a black cape and cowl instead of a blue cape and cowl. But other than that, this is pretty similar to the Batgirl that I would have been familiar with from the comics. Oh, and they gave her a yellow lining to her cape, which she would have just had a solid blue cape. But I was still familiar with the yellow lining of the cape from the television series with Yvonne Craig. So this would have been what I would have recognized as Batgirl, even though this is the Three Jokers design. But it's enough of a throwback that I feel like it counts. So we can see what Batgirl would have looked like in the comics versus what she wound up looking like in the movie. So just thought it would be fun to have a little comparison there. So yeah, it's a good figure. It's definitely a good figure. All these figures in this line have been excellent so far. I do, like I said, have some issues with how they decided to translate Batgirl into a live action movie and basically made her a completely different character from what she was in the comics. So this is practically a new character versus the Barbara Gordon that we know in the comic books, who's the police commissioner's daughter and all that stuff. So and I don't feel like since she was just kind of a side character in the movie, I don't feel like she was really given enough space to shine as a new character. So, I don't think she really worked out as well as they hoped. So, she does have her peg hole in the chunky high heel I was talking about, which might be why they made it as chunky as it is. I don't know if it was really that chunky in the movie or not. I don't remember. So, but yeah, there she is on the figure stand. But it's a nice looking figure and has a lot of good detail to it and does look very much like her costume that she had in the movies. Now, that having been said, There was a live action version of Barbara Gordon that would have followed shortly after this when they did the Birds of Prey television series, and Dina Meyer played Barbara Gordon / Oracle, and in a few episodes they would have had flashbacks, and in one episode she wore a device on her spine so that she could actually use her legs, and she did wear the Batgirl costume again on that. And basically how they made the Batgirl costume in that one was they took this Batgirl costume and I think they gave it a different emblem and added some more gold accents to it. So she had a gold utility belt and gold boots and gold gloves, and she had a full cowl, and she was Barbara Gordon. So yeah, I kind of hope, even though it doesn't seem like the sort of thing that would be too likely to happen, since it would be an action figure based on a failed television show that hardly anybody remembers and not many people liked. But the thing that everybody did like universally about it was they liked Dina Meyer as Batgirl and thought she looked great in the suit. So I think that since they've already got this figure pretty much made, and mainly they just have to give her a different head and maybe a different upper torso, but most of these parts they could reuse. Why not make a Dina Meyer Batgirl? I think that would be even though like I said, not a very well remembered or well liked series, but it was the best aspect of that series, and I think that would be a figure that would actually be quite popular if you made it. I think even if it was somebody who was not familiar with the show, they would look at it and be like, oh, that's a cool Batgirl action figure, and buy it just on its own merits. Whereas this one, I don't think most people would really recognize her as Batgirl if they didn't know that this was supposed to be Batgirl from the from the movie Batman and Robin. If that was a movie they weren't familiar with and they only knew Batgirl as Barbara Gordon as she appeared on the comic books or Batman the animated series or whatnot, I think they would kind of look at this figure and be like, that's supposed to be Batgirl? Where's her cowl? Why is she blonde? Why is her outfit like all entirely black? So, I'm just saying. I like Alicia Silverstone an awful lot. I think that she was a very talented actress, actually. And she had like good comedic chops. And I always say that comedy is the hardest kind of acting to do. So if you can do comedy, you can do any kind of acting. So I think that, like, Alicia Silverstone was somebody who like never really got her due as an actress. Like, I think she probably could have been like some kind of A-list actress if this movie hadn't kind of derailed her career. I mean, she did all right. I don't think ever really stopped working, but I don't think she was ever really quite as big as she could have been either. So yeah, too bad about that. But action figure's nice. I'll give it that. That's pretty much it for this episode. I'm planning on doing Batman tomorrow, assuming I can get up early enough to do Batman. So if not, Batman will be coming on Monday. And once I have all 4 of the figures out of the box, my next video, at least as far as action figures go, will be Mr. Freeze, because I'm definitely going to want to talk about that figure. I feel like it's going to deserve its own video. You want to have a video where you talk about Mr. Freeze. Honestly, I'm starting to be of the opinion that they probably should have done Mr. Freeze in his own figure box and sold him separately and made Bane the Build-A-Figure. Because are we going to have an opportunity to have a Batman and Robin style Bane? I kind of feel like that's a necessary figure to have in this set. Like he was despite my misgivings about how they handled that character, he was an important enough character, I think, to have in the movie. So we go ahead and have these two next to each other, see what they look like. Adam and Evil. Yeah. Chicks like you give women a bad name. What was up with that line? And then what I thought was the goofiest thing in the entire movie, the goofiest Batman movie ever made until Robert Pattinson. And like the goofiest part of the goofiest movie, rubber lips are immune to your charms. Did she not use tongue? I would think that would be the way you would transfer the poison is with your tongue, but no, it's he just had rubber on his lips. That somehow did it. What a goofy movie. Anyway, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and we will talk to you next time. Bye. End stream.